What's going on, button pushers? Welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk to you guys about the Canon R5c. It's Canon's newly announced camera, basically the cinema version of the Canon R5, and me being an R5 owner, I want to talk to you guys about it, my thoughts. Am I going to get one? What do I think about it in general? Let's talk about it. For those of you who are just seeing it for the first time here in this video, the Canon R5c is pretty much just a R5 cinema version. It really puts more focus and emphasis on that video aspect while still holding that photo hybrid capability. And I think that is really cool because having a cinema version of a camera with still really good photo specs is pretty freaking amazing for those hybrid users. And honestly, if I didn't already have an R5, maybe I might pick up one. But I'm going to talk to you guys about why I'm pretty sure I might not get it, but it is an amazing camera based on what specs it has. So let me know in the comments below, guys. What do you guys think about the R5c? Are you going to pick one up? Are you thinking about getting one in the future? Is it on your consideration list? Let me know in the comments and let's jump into the video itself. So first of all, the physical characteristics of the R5c are a little bit different, but mostly the same when it comes to the R5. So the difference of the R5c is that it has a huge active cooling fan, which pretty much fixes the issue of the R5 overheating in video 4K 120, 4K 60, and 4K HQ and 8K modes. This was one of the biggest issues when it came down to the Canon R5, and this active cooling fan is going to be something that actually fixes that issue for us and makes it a little bit more usable. Aside from that, all the buttons are pretty much the same. They're in the same places, except this time they have labels, they're numbered, and it's labeled for their default function. So, you know, if you guys are looking for a specific button when you don't need to program it to do a specific thing, these are their defaults, and you know, it could be useful, it could not be, you know, it really depends. A lot of people don't really use all these buttons. Some people do, some people don't. Depends on you, I guess. Some other things that carry over the same, we're using the same battery, the LPE6 battery. We have the same 45 megapixel sensor. We still have that really nice dual pixel autofocus, except we do get a few more autofocus modes like car autofocus and whatnot that come from the R3, and that is really cool. That's really nice. You know, it's always good to have other autofocus options because those really help. And I feel like the key highlight of the R5c is that autofocus that Canon provides for us, especially in these new mirrorless, and they had them on their DSLRs. The autofocus was absolutely amazing, and it's one of those things that you just can't let go of. And honestly, I feel like the R5 autofocus was so much better than the C70s, and that is based on my personal experience with the C70. You might have a lot better experience because I kind of got rid of my C70 after a week. So oh, did I mention we're getting a really nice big red shutter button? That is really cool. I like that. There's something about a big red button that just makes it so appealing and so much more like, I like this camera. Canon knows what they're doing when it comes to their physical traits. But let's get to what Canon is lacking, because there is a few things that is lacking that I know that a lot of people here are going to be asking for and asking, why did Canon do this? Why did they take this out? Why did they not include this? What's wrong with them? Then the first thing is going to be IBIS, in-body image stabilization. Now, they're not completely cutting it off. They have digital image stabilization, and if you've watched my videos before, you know that I am a hater when it comes to digital image stabilization. I love in-body actual physical sensor stabilization. It's so much better than digital. It's a tough thing, but I think it's because they added that fan, which makes it just a little bit harder to include that in-body stabilization, because it was the same thing with the C70. It's the same thing with a lot of other cameras. When they add that fan, it just makes it a little bit harder for them to include in-body stabilization, so they had to probably suffice with that digital image stabilization. And one thing that is actually really confusing to me, that makes this camera just a little bit more limited in a lot of different ways, is not being able to shoot in specific resolutions based on the battery you are using. Now, I'm going to read this straight from the article. When recording at its fastest data rates, the internal battery doesn't have enough power to operate the lens mount. This is a no problem if you're using manual focus, manual iris Cinelens, but means you lose autofocus and iris control of RF and EF mount lenses in the most challenging video modes, meaning 8K Cinema RAW, 5.9K Cinema RAW, and 2.9K Cinema RAW. There's always a limitation. Now, here's the thing. The situation is, if you are somebody who's using this for something like more cine style kind of thing, as opposed to the more mirrorless and DSLR, autofocus, handheld vloggy type style, and just depending on autofocus, then you'll be okay. You'll be absolutely fine, because you don't need that autofocus, you don't need that iris control, you don't need a lot of different things, you don't need or require that IBIS, because you may be focusing on other things. And a lot of times in the cinema world, image stabilization is not a thing when it comes down to the camera, but it's super nice to have, but it is not like a mandatory type thing. So if you're that kind of person who likes to shoot a lot of cinematic, high production type stuff, this camera could be perfect for you, because you don't really depend on things like autofocus and iris control. But if you're the opposite and you really need that autofocus, if you really need that image stabilization in body, it might be a little bit harder, it might be a questionable decision, but it still is an amazing camera. Now, to overcome this limitation, you need a power bank or plug into a wall. Even with the battery pack, apparently it won't work. So if you have two LPE6 in that battery pack, apparently it still won't work. So it's kind of limiting there. Now, I know the whole pain of this, because the 1DX3 is kind of the same way. When you're shooting in full frame 4K 60, you don't get autofocus. It's kind of annoying. Like, the whole reason that you buy the camera is for that 4K full frame, but 1DX3 doesn't have it. Weird. We're still getting a CF Express slot. We're still getting an SD slot. We are downgrading to a micro SD port. So that is something to take into account. You're not getting a full-size HDMI, but they are including a lot of different things that cinema cameras do include, like time code, waveforms, false color. Those are three things that I have wished for on these cameras, because those are true cinema stuff. They really help you kind of determine and see colors and light and exposure and sharpness when it comes down to shooting and making sure everything looks good out of camera, so that you don't have any issues later on. Now, that is something to take into consideration for this camera, because again, if you are looking to just stay in that hobbyist type field, the R5 might be a little bit better for you, because again, that autofocus, all those things that you don't necessarily need if you don't understand it. The R5c again is going to be that cinema line Canon camera, and they're making it a little bit more portable than the C70, because what you had here was like the C500, C200, C300, C700s, and then it comes down to the C70, and now you have the R5c, you have the 1DX or the 1DC as well, and they're just making it more and more compact into this consumer based market, and it is really good. It's super smart, and the R5c is such a promising camera with these new features to make a cinema camera for just $4,500 US. Like, that is in a crazy price. That's just like 1,000, not even 1,000 more than the R5, and that is really, really nice. When it comes down to resolutions, we're gonna get up to 8K 60, 4K 120, and everything in between, 5.9K and 2.9K, and that is really, really, really nice, because you have a lot of options when it comes down to it. And we're getting cinema raw light from Canon, and we're getting that in a HQ, ST, and LT, which is pretty much high quality, medium quality, and low quality when it comes down to compression rates and formats. Now, I think this is definitely better than the R5 and the C70, because honestly, it comes so compact. It comes very, very nice. It is a hybrid camera, so you can carry this around as your main hybrid camera if you're traveling or something. Get really, really, really nice videos as well as photos if you need it, because that hybrid capability is amazing. The R5 is the same way, but again, that overheating on the R5 does still happen even with the new firmware update. I have confirmed I've got overheating issues, but it's not as bad as it when it first came out. But the C70 is more cinema based, it's a bit bigger, it's a bit heavier, and it requires a lot more. But the R5c, I feel like you'll be able to just take it, run with it, just like something like the GH5, the S1H, or something like that. It's such a nice camera with so many codecs, so many nice features now. The only thing that people are probably going to want is that in-body stabilization and internal NDs. People are suckers for internal NDs. That's like, if Canon were to release a second camera with internal NDs and just say, oh yeah, we have internal NDs, everybody's buying that camera. Everybody loves internal NDs because it saves so much money, and it makes it so much easier to just walk around and have it inside your camera without having to plug in, carry anything, or just screw on a new filter. it makes life a lot easier. So personally, I don't think I'm going to be getting an R5c because I did actually end up ordering a Canon R3. I'm actually waiting for that to come in now, and if you watched my video before, I did mention that I might be considering the R3, and I ended up deciding to get it because somebody wanted to buy my 1DX3, and I was like, hey, might as well. So we're actually waiting for that R3 to come in now, and I think that is a really good choice for me. The R5c might have been a good option as well, but I kind of want to consolidate because I have all this 1DX stuff. I have all the batteries, I have all that stuff, and I really like that form. So switching to a mirrorless one might be really, really nice. So let's see how it goes. I think I'm gonna love the R3. We'll see. Maybe one of my friends is gonna get an R5c and I can test it out for you guys. Honestly, the R5c is such a promising camera, and I do want it. Like, I do think that it would make a really, really good camera in my arsenal, but at the same time, I do have the Komodo, I have the Gemini, I have my R5 already, I have the 1DX3, which I am going to be trading in for the R3, and I feel like it's just not something that I need, the R5c, based on what I have, because I do have cinema cameras already, and I do want to focus on something more vloggy, something more handheld and less focused on video, just something I can carry around, hybrid style, which the R5c does do, but again, that digital image stabilization just isn't for me. And for something like this where I just want to carry it around, I don't really need waveforms, I don't need false color, I don't need that super awesome 8K quality, I don't need a lot of things, and I feel like just the R5 itself or even just the R3 are going to do amazing for me in a situation like this. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Are you going to pick one up? What do you guys think? Did I miss anything in the feature list, the specs list? Let me know in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. Keep pushing buttons, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.